It's always good to be around and to have things to talk about. Independence. You wonder whether we are independent, which is very different from you wonder whether we can be independent. Those are completely different concepts. Wondering whether we are independent and wondering whether we can be independent. And I was looking at some definitions here. You know, I always want to build my arguments based on information and not otherwise. And some dictionary meanings here. When you approach independence in terms of dictionary meanings, it says it is a fact or state of being independent. And when we talk of independence in terms of synonyms, you're talking of self-government, self-rule, home rule, separation, self-determination, sovereignty, autonomy, freedom, liberty. All these are very, very deep and some of them very controversial concepts. Of course, for those of us who are Christians, you understand that the biggest problem of this world is independence. The moment Adam and Eve sought sovereignty, they sought self-rule, they sought self-governance, they sought autonomy, we had a crisis. Are you with me? The world's biggest problem today is here because of independence. So sin is a direct result of independence, bringing us to the question, is independence good? Hello. I can see Jethro is enjoying this. If we began our problems with independence, then from Eden to where we are, when did independence move from being a bad thing to a good thing, if it ever did? Where is independence if the heart has to work with the lungs? Where is independence if the foot has to work with the toe and the leg with the hand and the stomach with the teeth? Where is independence? Where has this concept of independence ever worked? Let's just go back to the definition. I'd like you to stay with me for a little bit. Because if it says, another definition says, independence is all about not being influenced, not being controlled by others in matters of opinion, conduct, etc. Thinking or acting for yourself. An independent thinker, not dependent, not depending, not contingent upon something else for existence. Who lives a life where they are not dependent, not depending, not contingent upon something else for existence or operation? Who does? None. Because we are all dependent on God. We all exist on others. Our food, our life depends on food. Our breathing depends on oxygen. So where is independence? This non-contingent, non-dependent, non-depending, where is it? Yes, there is independence. And you know where it is? Do you want to know? It is a fallacy. A fallacy is an argument that argues on something that doesn't exist. Developed and propagated and heralded by politicians who are dependent on fallacies themselves for existence. So politicians argue for independence, yet they know they depend on human beings they call voters. So they are lying. There is no independence because they depend on them. Take away voters. Where are politicians? Nowhere. But they know they depend on voters, then they argue for independence. You know why they get away with that? Because they understand that the population does not think critically. So they can't see through the lie. Okay, fine, in 1962 we got independent. If we did. Mulunda Hospital was built by colonialists. They were not Ugandans. And we are told they were robbing this country. Then those who have not been robbing this country pick this country, and they've never built a hospital as good as Mulunda Hospital. And we have had 54 years of trying. 54 years of trying. Okay, fine, Mulunda is a big project. Look at all the schools the politicians that were robbing this country built. From Namagunga, Nabisunsa, to Budo, Budo collaboration with the government of Uganda, which is a discussion for some other day if we need kingdoms. That one will also come. But, okay, fine. But look at all the schools built by the politicians, the colonialists. On all their schools, there wasn't a bag of cement that was ever stolen. All the cement went to the hospital, all of it. And those are decisions made by those who were robbing this nation. During the time of the colonialists, there was never a commission of inquiry investigating the loss of money in a road building project. There was never one, because there was no need for one. When they set out to build a road, they built a road, and a good road. Then we became independent. We took charge, and we have commission of inquiry after commission of inquiry when we who own the nations are building for our nation. Because we are independent. You know what we are independent of? We are independent of quality.
Steady progress.
Yes. Steady progress towards the substandard. Ladies and gentlemen, let me draw your attention to something very serious. Until we understand, listen, until we understand that we cannot be independent, corruption is going nowhere. Because for you to be corrupt, you have to believe in independence, in the sense that your development does not depend on other people. No, you didn't get me.
I did.
You have to disabuse yourself of belief in independence for you to stop being corrupt. And this is it. When you're driving home and you believe in independence, you cannot stay at the back of the queue. But if you believe in independence, when you get to a jam, you are on the pavements, you are all over the place, because everybody doesn't matter. You matter more than everybody because you are not dependent. You are not contingent. So Uganda's problem is being governed by persons who believe in independence. They don't believe in dependence. And I fear to live with people who believe in independence. I always like to be part of societies where people believe in independence, where people do not believe in self-sufficiency. We are one in Christ. That's what Jesus told us. We are one, that we are not independent. He also does not believe in independence because he says, I and the Father are one. Dependence. So Uganda's biggest problem, I want to suggest to yourselves, is independence conceptually. The refusal to agree that we all depend on each other, that we need the opposition, and the opposition needs government. One cannot exist without the other. Do you understand what I'm talking about? And this cuts across. That's why politicians of the opposition are blaming government, and yet they're in parliament. Parliament is the third arm of government. So I can't understand when a member of parliament of the opposition is blaming government. Government has three arms. Hello? The executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. You are in government.
They are independent.
But because they believe in independence. It is sad I've got to live in a world where liars are leaders. From across the board. It doesn't care what color they are, yellow, blue, take it. They all believe in independence. That's why some are in Luka. Another group is attempting to go where? Bamnanika? I don't know where else. They are all going to celebrate independence. Which is problematic. Because we know as Christians from the book of Genesis that the world's first problem was the search for independence. Independence struggles did not begin in 1962. They began in Genesis. And in 1962, after we sought independence and got independence, we are now lining up for visas, chasing after those we removed from our country. What an independence. At official level, the president of an independent nation spends money and fuel going to bring investors that we chased 54 years ago. Oh no, he argues that our biggest problem was colonialists. Then he goes to meet them to call them back. Because he has also now agreed that African revolutionarism cannot run away from concepts built by God, concepts like dependence. We removed them from here. 54 years later, we have found out we cannot run our own football teams. We need them. After how many 38 years of trying with Africans, we found we needed a white man to take us back to a football tournament organized by Africans and largely sponsored by companies of white men. The African Football Nations Tournament run by Africans is dependent on white money. There is no independence. We need each other. Blacks and whites, men and women, boys and girls. Those who agree with this interpretation and those who don't, we need each other. Fenna tulina kubeera wano. Enensi etumala fenna. Its biggest problem is be balowooza nti abamu balina ogibeerako nga abalala tebalina kubeerawo. The problem of terrorism is a problem brought by a belief in independence. So omaze. Because you are here because of the absence of independence. You cannot be here unless you have an ovary that depends on a sperm. Life begins.
Hallelujah.
Life begins with independence.
I was shown in the name of
Life begins with independence. In fact, let me argue, the danger of belief in independence, when independence sets into the mind, something dangerous surfaces. You know what it is?
No.
Gazing. I oppose gazing for one reason. It argues on a fallacy. Independence. That men do not need women.
They need men.
And women do not need men. And then after they have believed in not needing the other sex, one of them becomes a man. Even abantu balowooza. Onakitegeera gambi by the way. Kyakasinkinga. Ekyo basebo ne banyabo tewaliwo omuntu ateetaaga munne. You cannot propagate life without dependence. You cannot. Even when you go to the lab, you have to have an ovary, an egg, and you have to have a sperm. Katonda yatandikirawo okutulaga nti waliwo ekintu kye tusasobola kulwanyisa independence. Ffe twabagamba wano tulina ebintu bye tubeerako ebya Kristo n'okuyamba abantu mu kulowooza. Kubaako ebintu bye tulowooza. Kati enkya bwe mulabanga bannammwe baselebratinga bwe kibuuzo ky'oba weebuuza kye bajaganyako bakimanyi nga tukyanoonya visa. Olwaliwo omuntu yenna asaba Katonda amuwa omukisa akolereko n'oku kampani ng'omukulu w'alikulembera muzungu. Kyokka mwafuna obwetwaze. Mwetwala mu ki? Juzi nabadde ku TV, sawa zange ziweddewo. Juzi nabadde ku TV, President agamba nti ibaddaku.
Wadde ku TV ng'okola ng'olaba. Hallelujah.
Katonda yansasira nti nava mu kulaba TV kolako. Newe mbandaba baba nsasira okulaba. President w'eggwanga n'agamba abantu nti baddalu omuntu ogenda okugula furniture mu Buwarabu eteri miti. Ne President ne mujjukiza kyokusinziira ku kyenzijjukira emmeeza gy'atera okutambula nayo yajjaguzisi ya wano kati yagikyusa. N'entebe ze batera okumutambuza nazo. Ne lwe naliko ewuwaawo mu ofiisi entebe nalaba kakati mungemuga President kati katulawo oba onookyusaamu ebintu byange atera obiwuliriza. Era bw'ataawuliza ejja kwongera okumujjukiza. Bassebo ne bannyabo njagala okumaliriza nga mbataasa mu buzibu bwe mujja okusanga. Ati abaagala manye waffe eriwayo kye bayita obujemu kyekyo buyambi kiba little bit more. kati kamba yange omanyi oluganda tegwemalirira olwagala okubeera deep lugenda mu nnimi endala kaakano omusajja agamba bwati critical thinking yembeera gyobeeramu n'obanga tokyatuula awo n'okeera nkya omanyira nti omuntu talowooza critically ye mukyalo okubanga alina entamu emu abadde afumbira emyaka 6 naye nga bwe lwagenda okufumba omunyi akombako omukombe kale kiba kitegeeza nti bwafumba nga ava kulya kikajjo omunyi guba mulala emyaka 6 bamutamu tekyusanga sayizi kyamanyi kigero kya munyo naye ng'abeera mu nsi ng'abeera mu nsi erimu minzaani
abasajja tebagoba bakazi ensonga kyebukobye nnene esinga
kazuddewo. Critical thinking is the intellectually disciplined process. We're talking about process. It is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and or evaluating information you have gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. Now, before you believe anything, and before you act on anything, when you observe, mbadde mu ddiini n'emyaka mingi akyadde ebintu ebigenda maaso and experience ng'ebintu bikutuukako ng'oli mu ddiini myaka 3 myaka 4 and then you reflect. Even through reflection you gather information. Some people observe and experience but they don't reflect. So information gathered by observation, experience and reflection. There is information you gather by observation, there is information you gather by experience, and there is information you gather by reflection. No tulao, no fumitirizamu. Then you reason, no rules, and you communicate. Kati awo ffe kwa iTiS we twatuuka. Before we believe, before we believe, we observe, we experience, we reflect, we reason, then communicate. That's the process. When I say independence, era njagala okuva wansi nga mbagamba nti okusinziira ku bintu byendabye mu nsi muno nkizudde nti it is important to celebrate okulaba twafunye keeke era tetusobola kucelebrating our independence when we are going to depend on a cake for happiness. After experiencing, after for several years of observing cakes being cut and cakes being eaten, I have observed, I have experienced, I have reflected, I have reasoned. Now let me communicate. Cake teyetaaga kuyoola. I have observed. I have observed, reflected. Synthesize kati kizuri. Can communicate. Do not believe keke yeetaaga okuyoola. So belief eyo ereme guidinga action nga baleese sowaani. Basebo ne bajja Mukama Katonda omulungi twagala okwebaza erinnya lya Mukama. Twagala okwebaza kubanga otusomesezza nti buli muntu yeetaaga munne. Abasajja beetaaga abakazi, abavubuka abalenzi beetaaga abavubuka abawala, abasomesa beetaaga abayizi, abatufuga beetaaga bebafuga, naffe abafugibwa twetaaga abatufuga. Naye kanaaluzaala ali mu ngeri gye tugenda mu ntabiro, the relationship between the men and the women, the cake and those who eat it. God, help us to realize that we are dependent on you and that we need you. We want to thank you for this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Three, two, one.